War Eagle, War Rapport family. I'm your host, C-Dub, and today's show is brought to you by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Please be sure to check them out at gwt2energy.com. The weekend tailgate starts right now.
You are now listening to the unmistakable sound of the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate. It's your boy, Ike Jones. Be real. C-Dub. Mike G. Get ready. Sit on back as we bring you the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, War Rapport family. It's good to see you guys. Welcome to the best tailgate show in the land. The weekend tailgate brought to you by your friends at the War Rapport. Please come in and smash the like button. Drop a War Eagle in the comments section. Drop your city and location if you're not Auburn family. And by all means, guys, do us a solid favor and share this video across the internets on social media. Please add us if you're on Twitter at The War Rapport using hashtag TWR Tailgate and hashtag Get Your Weight Up. We appreciate that. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And God bless some of you guys for hopping in on a Mother's Day to hang out with us. We won't be here long. B. Will is not with us today because he's on daddy duty, but he will be back on the War Room this upcoming week. So that's that. Mike G, we got a special drop for that's coming tomorrow, right?
We do have a special drop. While we're working hard, kind of bring you guys something a little bit different here. So as a special segment to our Building Rapport series, we dropped an interview with Josh Pate from 247 Sports and the Late Kick. Josh was very gracious to give us some of his time to talk about all things Auburn football. He had some very interesting takes on this. If you are an insider, you have already seen this. The comments have been kind of incredible. So we appreciate you guys doing that. Become an insider. If you are an insider, you get premium access to all the things we do, like this interview with Josh Pate. We have some other things coming up that will be insider only. We'll announce those at a later date. Other than that, please hit our GoFundMe. This is a great way to support what we do. We'll continue to bring you guys expanded and quality content. Also, you can hit our merch store to buy some fly War Rapport merch and support us that way as well. Also wanted to thank everybody who jumped on our third Chop It Up with Chris Todd last Thursday to talk about quarterback play. It was great. So Chris had a lot of interesting insights. Him and Isaac kind of went through a lot of what did we see, and the results of that were we have reserved optimism about our quarterback situation this fall. It seems like he took some steps forward. They're really coaching him to do the right thing. So it's just going to be about getting those reps in and making sure that whatever the coaches are trying to get him to do sticks moving forward. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the results of that are going to be this fall as we enter fall camp, headed into the first 4 games of the season. We got a couple cupcakes, and then we got Penn State on the road sandwiched in there between some cupcakes. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all of this comes together for QB, O-line, receivers, just offensively. This is going to be really interesting. So Chris helped take us through that a little bit. 8A was a preview. Hopefully the start to the season is going to be a preview as well, too, for what we're going to see in those first couple games.
Agreed. Just want to shout out a few people in our comments. We appreciate you guys hanging out and commenting along with us as we do our show. Shout out to War Eagle. Shout out to Daniel Speller. We see you, James Barnett. Blake, always good to see you.
Yeah, man.
I believe Mike G can empathize with you. He got his second COVID shot and he's right there with you, brother. So
yeah, man. I'm not feeling it just yet, but I've been told that it can hit a few hours later. So hoping for no side effects. I've been eating right and exercising and taking care of my body. So get my weight up. So hopefully
There you go.
keeps the COVID shocks away.
And be Will in the comment section.
Please follow B Will's instructions and smash that like button, please. Shout out to B Will who couldn't be with us in the physical. So, yeah, man, want to shout out to Brad Hughes. Appreciate you, brother. Happy Mother's Day. He's telling us to treat our ladies something nice. We will definitely do that. That's why we won't be on here too long today. So we can definitely do that. But appreciate you guys. Anthony Grant, we see you. Carter, we see you. Jeb, we see you. Derek Gunner. Yeah, man.
Frank Spencer catching live for the first time. Welcome
to you, Frank. Welcome. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how you guys doing, man?
Amazing. Happy Mother's Day to my mom. I called her this morning. She was in church when I called her, as she normally is on a Sunday morning.
I feel like your mom is like the mom of the chat, right? Like, cause everybody just kind of has adopted her into the chat. So big shout out to mom.
She watches. She definitely watches. She's got enough faith.
My mama definitely don't watch. So
my mama has got enough faith for all of us that Auburn will do well. She believes that God is an Auburn fan.
No,
I've argued against that vehemently, but hey, listen, man, she believes what she believes. She thinks that God is, hey, God made the sky blue and the sun orange for a reason. So
I can't fault her logic there. Yeah, right. I just need him to give a little bit more grace to the football team.
I think he used all that energy creating the sky. I need him to create a championship program and all.
Yeah, right. Yeah, dear Lord, please bless Bryan Harsin with some quarterback teaching skills. So we are in here on a Mother's Day. So yeah, shout out to my mother, the woman who made me what I am. Raised me to be respectful, and I wouldn't be here where I am today without my mama. So love you, Mom.
Yeah. I would shout out my mama, but she ain't watching, so I see her a little bit. She ain't gonna watch the replay, none of that. I had to send her a clip of it for her to see a shout out from me. So I just tell you later, Mom.
Mm-hmm. Happy Mother's Day to my mom, and my sister does catch a few of these. So happy Mother's Day to
Happy Mother's Day to my wife. That's a little airheaded of me. My wife does come in here. She is not here doing the whole Roll Tide bit today.
And she's a Bammer. Yeah.
Why did you were in Auburn spirit, so yeah, you just like your wife just didn't even cross your mind because you're in Auburn mode. I get it. So you can actually say that, Ike?
I don't know how that just happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Did it hurt?
I mean, my tongue is on fire, man. It's just something wrong.
I'm sure it hurt. It would hurt me.
It hurts my feelings. You know what?
My
eyes are watery. So
you're right. You're right, Caesar. I'm remiss if I don't say Happy Mother's Day to my sister as well. Too.
Yeah, my sister doesn't watch, but Happy Mother's Day to her too.
Happy Mother's Day to my sister, man. She turned. I heard her parenting her kids the other day while I was on the phone with her in the background, and I was just really taken back. I was like, man, you are an excellent mother. Like, the way she communicates with her kids, like, I mean, she was parenting with words. Right.
Yeah.
And like,
that's interesting. That's an interesting way to do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. She was parenting with words like, son, I'm very disappointed in you. And they respond to that. They're like, "Oh, you just hit me. Don't tell me you're disappointed." Right? Like, they respond to that. I was like, "Wow, you guys are way better than we were." So, she is a great mom and a great wife, and I'm very thankful to her too. We both went to Auburn. I tell this story, like, a lot of people didn't know she was my sister because we don't look anything alike.
No.
We don't look
when I met your sister, I was like, Huh?
Like, y'all got different daddies, right? No, same dad.
I mean, I knew because that's how I met you, is through your sister. But yes, if I had met you all separately, I would not have assumed that you all were.
Oh my goodness! And we in high school, we hated each other. And as soon as she moved out of the house, we figured out we actually love each other. We just can't live with each other.
That's fair. I mean, that's a very sibling
that's most
thing.
siblings. Yeah, you just described most siblings.
Yeah, I love you, but I can't live in the same house as you. Right after she moved out, we're great friends. My sister is one of my best friends. So shout out to her on Mother's Day as well, up in the ATL.
Definitely. Well, yeah, shout out to sis as well. We know your sister well from the Auburn days, of course. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Auburn, man, let's get into it, man. Not a lot we're basically in recruiting season now, tracking portal news and information. And I think it's been a little over a week now since the deadline came for guys to actually decide whether or not they're going to enter the portal or not. We talked about some of the guys previously from Auburn who have entered the portal and will no longer be with the program. But we do have Kamal Haddon. If you guys recall him, it was announced last week that he is actually entering the transfer portal as well. If you recall, he was a 2021 signee this past recruiting cycle. Wanted to come in, and it's obvious he wanted to get some playing time. He wanted to play, but of course, it's going to be hard to crack that starting lineup with Pritchard on one end and McCree on the other, right? So, and we also have the guy from West Virginia who's coming in who expects to actually be here a year and go to the NFL afterwards. So the expectation is that he's probably going to get some playing time even if he doesn't crack the starting lineup. So where does that put a guy like Kamal Haddon? So he's entered the portal.
He had an up and down A-Day game. I was going to say, just as far as Kamal was concerned, his A-Day was up and down. If you guys saw the Chop It Up, you saw some plays where he got burnt, and you saw some plays where he made some decent, plays in the past game.
Right.
So, I wish him the best. So.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Listen, competing for a starting spot on Derek Mason's defense is going to be something to behold this fall.
Agreed.
So, a lot of guys are feeling that heat. The best guys are going to play. Now, I feel like the best guys were playing before on defense for the most part, but there's a new culture in town here on the Plains. The article from The Athletic where they interviewed Harsin, and he talked about guys showing up. Right. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, there's good days and there's bad days. Sometimes it feels like guys get it. And then other times it feels like we're struggling. It's 50-50 whether some guys will just show up. And I reread that and I was thinking, is he speaking hype? Like,
yeah.
Figuratively.
Right. And that's when I read it, I was like, that could be a mixed thing. Like, is it like actual like absence from practice, or are they just like not bringing it every day in practice? And either one of those
is a problem.
A problem, right? Like, let's be clear.
Right.
If your effort is inconsistent, that doesn't translate well to a football season. Like can't, like he said, every day it's 1-0. Like every single day. Yesterday doesn't matter. You had a good practice yesterday. So what? You had a good game last week. So what? Nobody cares. The next opponent is not going to come and be like, they played really well last week. Mm-hmm. They don't care. They're trying to beat you this week.
Right. But again, I'm thinking about that, Mike. I'm thinking that it could have been figuratively, because how many times in past seasons have we seen Auburn looked like a top SEC school, and then some weeks they look like a middle of the road SEC school, just because they're just been inconsistent in their play. Right. And that, again, you play how you practice. So if you're inconsistent in practice, you're going to be inconsistent in some of these games where teams are bringing it week after week.
Right.
So yes, to your point, it's still a problem regardless, but it's something that again, as Harsin installs his culture into this program, that's something that we begin to see less of and more consistent play out of these kids.
Well, connecting it back to the portal and some of these transfers, I really just think when I'm going to take a second to replug the Josh Pate segment that we did. He had some very interesting points on Harsin's reputation in this regard as a developer of talent. Now, he's not necessarily a player's coach in that it's all sunshine and daisies all the time, but he will get the most out of you, right? And that, I think, is one of the biggest culture switches that they're having to experience that's causing some of these guys to jump in the portal, right? Now, pardon my French, but, it sounds to me like Harsin's not pumping sunshine up anybody's ass a whole lot anymore. So with all that gone, if you're used to that sunshine pump every day, and you got a guy who's coming in and it's like, listen, best man wins, hardest worker wins. Get your ass in the weight room and get to work.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not upset about us. I've seen a lot of people on different chat boards that are upset, like, oh, we're signing too many 3-star guys. Look, I think his mindset is, I don't want ego on the team.
Right.
If you're a 3-star, but you can ball. Come here, we'll coach you up, and we're going to go out here and we're going to ball. Because the ego stuff, we need to work to a place where the guy that's the 4-star is there with a bunch of other 4-stars.
Right.
So he doesn't feel like, well, I'm more talented than everybody. No, your talent level is equal to everybody else out here. You have to outwork the guy next to you. Right. And so I'm okay with them getting a bunch of people that are at the same star level, as long as they're good fits for the position that they're going to be in.
Right.
And we have the ability to coach them into a place where they can play at a 5-star level. I don't have any problem with that. For me, it's about, are you going to come in and you're going to be able to compete consistently, not necessarily. And again, the star rankings sometimes get it wrong. They're not always right.
Brian has an interesting, I can't think of one college coach who consistently wins that as a player's coach. The only exception I would say is probably Dabo Swinney.
I was thinking of him too.
Yeah,
I was thinking of Dabo.
The only exception. But other than Dabo, I feel like this statement is correct.
Yeah.
Most of the guys who win consistently, they're not sunshine pumpers. They're hard-nosed guys who demand greatness.
Right.
They demand the best from you. And if you're not going to give the best, then you're going to sit.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't stress enough when we're talking about the portal, we got to not freak out about this.
Right.
When Saban came in, he had to clean house a little bit. And listen, man, sometimes a new broom just sweeps better. So you get a new coach, right? And so you got a new broom, and you get some new players, so you can get some new bristles in that broom. And it's going to hurt in year one. I've been preaching patience, right? I'm really over on the patience train. Now, I want to correct something that I said early on in this process. I felt very strongly early on that this wasn't a rebuild. And now I kind of feel like it is, but in a different kind of way. Not from like a talent perspective, but this is a mentality rebuild for this program. He's having to rebuild culture.
Right. That's for sure. It's a complete culture change. Like from the X's and O's to everything that's going to happen off the field, from the talent development, talent recruitment, talent evaluation. Like it's not the same.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, when you look at that, and then again, coming back to these portal transfers, this is going to happen. This was bound to happen.
Yeah.
And some guys, jumped out early, and other guys are, catching up saying, ooh, I don't know if I can survive this. Right. I think they're going to regret it.
Or depending on the conversations that they've had with coaches in the past week or so, you find out where you stand. And if that's not where you want to be, you're going to jump.
Yeah, some guys. I mean, you think about what's happening at places like Clemson. Do you think Dabo can promise any player that he's going to start? He can't. He's getting so much talent. Mm-hmm. All he can really sell is you will have an opportunity.
Right.
And guys are still buying it. And they're still going there, right, to compete. And they lose players to the portal, and, everybody can't play for Clemson and Bama and Ohio State. Right. So they're going through their attrition as well. We're just not talking about it because their on the field success covers up a lot of what they lose every year. It feels a little worse here because our on the field success isn't where it should be. So when a guy transfers out, we all start freaking out as fans.
And what's crazy about that? I didn't mean to cut you off. My bad. No, what's crazy about people freaking out about a lot of these players is most of them weren't going to see the field. Like, it's not impacting the on the field product, for the vast majority of them. The guys on the defensive line, your Hardys and your Handys, that one hurt a little bit more because those were guys you expected to contribute on the field. But I don't know that we were going to see Shale Garnett play. Barring a couple of layers of injury, Thompson wasn't going to play this year.
Right.
Haddon wasn't going to play this year on the outside. There's just too many guys in front of him. So they should transfer if they want to play immediately. And I'm not mad at them for making that decision. I'm not mad at Hardy or Handy either. Don't get me wrong when I say that. But I just don't understand why being upset at guys who have limited eligibility left and they decide, you know what, I need to go somewhere and I need to play.
Right. Look, but it's happening both ways. You guys can make the point, right? Drayshawn Miller.
Yeah.
He was a star. He was clearly a star in that. And he's supremely confident in his own abilities and thinks that he can come in here and in 1 year go to the league. He thinks that Derek Mason's defense is going to afford him that opportunity. So it's happening both ways. And, once the culture is installed, and I can't stress enough. I had a very interesting conversation over on the All About Auburn board again. Shout out Devin Dawson here. He and where I just was trying to preach patience with what really is going to feel like. Here's where I've come around after we've talked to people. It may feel like Bo is a first-year quarterback. It may feel like a lot of these guys are first-year players in this new system. We talked about this. I won't give it away, but we talked about this in our segment with Josh Pate about switching over systems. And I don't know that you're going to be able to measure our progress in wins and losses.
Right.
And when I say that, I mean, listen, he can't go out there and just win 3 games or some bull like that, right? Like,
right.
He's got there's a requisite amount of games that need to be won, but it's not 8 or 9. It's not even better than Gus.
Right.
He could be 500 this year, and we can still be moving forward. In year one, it's the SEC. It's tough, so you may lose some close games that maybe you won the year before, but because you're in a new system and guys are getting acclimated to what their new responsibilities are and the new way of doing things, it may not all come together this year.
Right.
Right. So I just want everybody to remember the 20 steps back we're taking in a new system from where we were.
Right.
And ideally we take 20 steps back and 25 steps forward in year one, but we may only get 15 steps forward. So it may look a little worse in the win-loss column than it was last year.
Right. Yeah. And I think you gotta, and sorry to cut you off, Mike, but you gotta, one of the things that I want to see is first you have buy-in, but then comes trust. Like these kids, you're not going to be able to establish that until games are played. Right. I'm buying into what you're telling me, but when we are able to put it together on the field, that's when I can trust that these coaches are leading us in the right direction. And then I'm going to be all the way in. Sometimes that may come in a loss. Right. We saw what happened to Auburn. I referenced the first year under Malzahn when we lost to LSU. We came out that first half and we looked flat. But the second half, you can tell that they were a different team. Right. They end up losing the game, but they were a different Auburn team. And that's how you can be encouraged in a loss, because you can see the light bulb come on for these kids.
Facts. Yeah.
And that comes with trust. Yeah,
the second half of that game, excuse me. The second half of that game is what springboarded them to the national title that year. Right. We came out and I remember watching it. It looked really bad. And then at halftime we came out and we looked competent. I was like, you know what? We look all right here. I think we'll be all right. They just came out the gate slow and then figured some things out and then used that. Right. So, that's all it is. We have to give our coach in year one a lot of patience, because now that we know the totality of everything that he's dealing with from a culture standpoint, based on what he got left. The job looks a little harder than I thought it was going to be. I had no issue saying that. Right.
Yeah, but you were looking at talent, right? But then you got to look at effort. Like there's no way to measure effort. Right, from a star rating.
Yeah, and we're hearing that from him now, months later, as it started, the picture is starting to clear up about where we're really at. And, he's sharing that. He's not trying to cover. What I love about this guy is he's not trying to cover it up. Right. He's not selling us everything's good and it's okay. Yeah. He's like, man, listen, we got some stuff we got to do. We got work to do. That's what I heard from that athletic, that interview with the Athletic. We have work to do. Right. And some guys will, and I'm
pretty sure that's different for him too, coming from where he's been at Boise, right? Like the attitudes are great there, I would imagine, because how many egos do you have on that team?
None.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So coming here to where you have a lot of kids who've been, again, they've been pumped sunshine all their life that they're going to be the next biggest thing, and they're just going to moonwalk into the NFL.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so
it's different too, because the culture was set at Boise before he became the head coach, right? Like the previous coaches at Boise already had a culture in place. He had to just maintain that. This is a cultural change, right? This is a shift in mentality. And so, again, this is not to say anything negative about the previous culture. I'm just saying it's different, right? And when the culture changes and it's not a maintenance of culture, it's going to be hard to do that. And so you've got to just kind of weed out, especially when you have holdover guys from the previous regime, right? Like I worked at a company. I don't know if any of you have ever worked for a company that's been acquired by another company or has had an investment group put money into that company. Culture changes when leadership changes, right? Like it's just an inevitability of changing leadership. And sometimes what's best for the new guy is to get rid of people in the old regime,
right?
Just because they're going to keep remembering how it was before and all, hey, it wasn't like this before you got here and this and this and that. And it's not that what's new is bad. It's just different from what I'm used to. And I don't like it. And I'm going to complain constantly. And then that complaining seeps into other people. And then it just becomes this culture. And even the new people who never experienced the previous culture, just like, oh man, that did sound really good. How come it ain't like that? And it's like, well, it's not. And so either you're on board with this or you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Facts.
Well,
yeah.
And that's what Harsin and company is trying to do with some guys who are in the portal who they're looking at. One of which is someone whose name came up in the past week or so, Tony Fair, D-line transfer from UAB, 6'3". He's 335 pounds. He's expected to be a plug in the middle, which is something we need. Jeremiah Wright went out with an injury in the spring, so we needed someone who was doing or has experience doing what we thought he was going to be able to do this upcoming season until he went down with that injury. He's down to us, Ole Miss, and Purdue. That is the UAB transfer.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this guy? From a little bit that I've seen on him in film, I mean, he looks like he's everything that we need him to be in the 3-4 defense, right? A guy who can take on double teams, a guy who can plug up the middle, free up your linebackers. Like he seems like that guy.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Ike?
Yeah, no, I agree that he's a stout guy in the middle, clogs up things. He holds up at the point of attack. You even see him playing against SEC talent. Most of the clips that you're going to see from him are going to be him against Tennessee, right? And Tennessee Tennessee pushed us around. Let's be clear. Tennessee pushed our defensive line around.
Facts.
Tony Fair was in there getting busy, right? So I don't have any issue with what I feel like he can do from that standpoint. And hopefully he is the kind of guy we need to be able, because, we talk about Truesdale being the holdover from that previous defensive line as far as snaps goes. Truesdale, it has never been a guy who didn't need rotation, right? So you've got to have someone else who can come in and plug and play like that on a consistent basis to rotate him out. Jeremiah Wright was supposed to be that guy. People still think JJ Pegues can grow into something like that. I don't know that he's a zero tech though, right? So you need someone who can just hold down that middle and make it difficult for them to leave you on an island with their center, because otherwise I'm going to destroy this guy. So hopefully he comes this way. All signs point to, we have a good shot at it, but until he's in the door, I'm not counting it as anything other than speculation.
Agree. And he has 1 year of eligibility left, which really and truly we need him in this transition on defense and along the defensive line. So that makes him a great fit, seeing as though we have depth issues along the front line, which we probably won't have after this year. Fingers crossed. But it just makes him a really good fit. Mike G, what are your thoughts on this kid?
You know what? It seems like in the trenches, when you bring in these guys from other systems, that this is one of the easiest places to plug and play with guys who have talent. If he can beat his guy, the guy in front of him, I feel good about it, right? This is not a thing where we're getting some kid who's like a super project either. He's not a big project. It's just, listen, he either got talent or he doesn't.
Agreed.
You know, yeah, he can either manhandle the guy in front of him or he can't. Yeah, so I think in this new system, right? Like, you know, I mean, not to say that it's there's no cerebral part to playing his position. I'm just telling you, like, when it comes to guys in the trenches, you know, it's easy to get a transfer left tackle and throw him in the offensive line, right? And, you know, you still have to learn chemistry with your fellow offensive and defensive linemen for the most part. But based on pass rush and, you know, again, you know, stopping the run, I mean, I just feel like they'll be able to, if they are evaluating this guy and they think that he's going to be a good fit, then I feel good about it. You know, I don't think this is something that needs to be overthought or over talked about, right? Like, you know, talent evaluation hasn't really been an issue on defense. And, you know, if they think he's good, I throw him in there and let's go.
Look, I was going to mention this on a previous show, and I mentioned the name, and this is not necessarily transfer portal talk, but it kind of ties into that. Do you all feel like they pushed so hard for JJ Pegues to switch over to defensive line because they saw the Hardy and Handy transfers coming?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I said when it hit. I was like, that makes me feel like they're not. And I said they weren't comfortable with who they had along the defensive line, right? But I didn't know it was because they felt like guys weren't going to stay. Mm-hmm. And they were like, all right, well, this kid is committed to the program, so let's get him over into a place where he can play immediately because our tight end room is so stacked. We're going to need some help on this size. He's got the size and the agility to play it, so let's move him over there. I feel like that was a preemptive. We realized, you know, because listen, guys didn't play in A-Day, so they were like, all right, we need somebody to get over here and take snaps in A-Day. So let's go ahead and move him over now.
Yeah, you think about the timing.
Yeah.
Right. It was, you know, a week, days before A-Day that they announced this Pegues move. Yeah. Just over a week before. And then we get to A-Day and these two guys don't play.
Right.
Right. And now when you start to put the puzzle pieces together, it's just what you said. The coaches knew something was going to happen here. And so they preemptively started, you know, managing their roster. That's encouraging, actually.
Yeah.
They got ahead of it.
Absolutely.
Right? You know, the player bought in, the coaches bought in, and now it looks like that might have been a good move. I don't think that was on accident. I don't think that was a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they had that information, especially when you hear your coach talking about effort and guys putting in effort, and that's been a hard thing for him this spring. That didn't just happen in a week. I mean, he's had months to evaluate effort.
Right.
Got a question here from D. Williams. If Tony Fair signs, what happens to JJ? I don't think he stays. He moves back. I don't think he moves back. Yeah,
I think he stays at least for this year, right? Because again, if Fair comes on, he's a 1-year rental, and they try JJ out over there. If it doesn't work out, then maybe they move him back next year. But I think JJ is going to be primarily a defensive lineman this year. The good thing about him playing tight end is that he could just do that, right? Like you don't have to reteach him how to catch the ball and run, right? Mm-hmm. Like he has to learn to play defensive line. He doesn't have to learn to play tight end. So shifting him back, if they need to do that, is an easier transition than pulling him off and then realizing, oh crap, we still do need defensive line help. Put him back over there, right? So I think he stays where he is.
And I can see them using. I mean, I think 3-4 will be our base, but Mason has mentioned that they're going to be multiple. They're going to have 4 down linemen at times. They can come up with packages for Pegues to allow him to use his athletic ability instead of trying to rely on him to be a guy who plugs the middle. I don't think he's going to be that guy. I don't think they want him to be that guy. Right. I think they want him to just be an athlete and just have him attack and use his athleticism to get upfield and disrupt the play. Right. So I think there's opportunities for him still on the defensive line, even if we get Fair to come to Auburn. Yeah, I just think you just have different tools in the toolbox that you can use defensively. So that's the hope there, at least for JJ Pegues. But that's that. We also have another kid. Well, before we do that, we'll get into the other guys who Auburn is potentially looking at in the portal. But guys, please do us a favor. Please share this video. Share the video. If you're on Twitter, add us at the War Rapport. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, please use hashtag TWR Tailgate and hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Please let people know we're out here, even in the offseason, working hard to provide you some of the greatest and the best Auburn content that you will find out here. You will have that at the War Rapport. Mike G, what we got coming up, bro?
Now, speaking of the greatest and the best content, check out our interview with Josh Pate. This was really, really, really good. I enjoyed shooting this with Caesar. Josh is a great guy, and listening to an unbiased, because that's one of the things that we try to do here, as we try to bring you guys unbiased opinions on the program and what we're going through, right? And he's just a football guy. If you watch his show over at the Late Kick, it's just like any other opinion show. You either agree or you disagree with what he has to say. But, I thought a lot of the things he had to say were very pointed and fair and on target. And, we asked him some questions about system and a lot of different things. And he shared his thoughts on Auburn. So you definitely don't want to miss this. This will be live tomorrow for anybody who is not a member. So please go check that out. Other than that, become an insider. That gives you early access to all this content that we shoot like this. And we're bringing you even more content. So position breakdowns are coming. Ike has got some things in store for you guys that I think everybody's really going to like. Hit that GoFundMe if you guys want to support the work that we do. We appreciate all the super chats, GoFundMe donations, all of it. And you can also go to our merch store if you want to support us as well too, and get some fly gear in return for the dollars that you give. Other than that, I just wanted to take the time to highlight that we have begun a fundraising campaign with the Lee County Humane Society officially, right? And we're going to be raising money to help them save animals, help people adopt animals, rescue animals. I have a rescue animal myself. Her name is Abby. She's an amazing dog that keeps me sane here in the house. But we're looking forward to using our platform to help raise money for them. So look out for that campaign. Ike and I are working on getting that out to you guys here in the next week or so.
Good stuff. Appreciate that, Mike. Well, let's resume talking about the transfer portal information. Another guy or another position group that Auburn really needs some bodies to fill in for that position is a running back. We're happy about who we have, number one and number two, with Tank and, of course, Sean Shivers. But behind him, it gets a little iffy. Of course, we got the freshman running back from Mississippi coming in. But there's talk of Jordan Ingram, who's a running back prospect from Central Michigan. He's also a Mobile native. I don't have a lot of measurables on him. I don't know if you got that, Ike, or saw that. But he is someone who Auburn's his size. I don't know if he's a big bag.
6'1", 195 when he was coming out of high school. I don't know where he is right now, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's more on that kid. But what do you guys thoughts about this? And I think it may have been JG that we was talking to, where Auburn's probably going to have to go to a smaller school to get someone who's capable or someone who they feel who can be a good third option for who we have right now. Pretty much if anyone's coming out of portal from a big school, it's either because they got passed by, they couldn't crack playing rotation, or it's disciplinary stuff. Someone who you would be leery of if they could be a fit at Auburn. But you can go to a smaller school and grab someone who is hungry, who's willing to prove themselves at this level. But what are you guys' thoughts on that? Start with
I think. Oh, Mike, go ahead.
It's interesting. Again, I kind of feel the same way that I did before. I'm actually interested to hear Ike's thoughts on this first. But, again, with all these portal guys, right, they're evaluating talent and they feel like these guys can fit. Plug them in. Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I've been we can talk ad nauseum about, does this guy fit? Is he good? I mean, the bigger storyline to me is, do the coaches feel like he's a good fit? Right. And are they right? And are they right or are they wrong? So, Ike digs into the weeds on these things. I'm more of an overall kind of guy where I'm just like, hey, listen, until I've seen him on the field at Auburn, I don't have a lot to say.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we can, if he's not like a big time transfer, like some huge name, like, can you imagine if somebody like Justin Fields is like, I'm going in the portal, I'm coming to Auburn. Okay, we could talk about the minutia on that.
Yeah.
For the rest of these guys, it's how are they going to fit into the system? And, as players go out in the portal and new players come in, what kind of process do they have to get guys acclimated to what they're going to be asking them to do?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if I like what I've seen about him. I won't pretend to have, done a ton of film research on him as of yet. But I've heard good things about his ability to run downhill, and that's what we need. I think the biggest thing for us, a kid like, what's his name? Sharp, is that number 44 right now, the running back who got the third string snaps at A-Day? I feel like right now he's probably a little too small. I like his heart though. So we don't know what we're going to have in, the incoming freshman kid, the signee, what's his name? Why am I terrible with everybody's name?
Hunter.
Yeah, Lee Hunter. Yeah, with Jaquez Hunter. We don't know what we're going to have with him, but he's, again, another smaller back. So they need somebody with some size to be able to spell, because Shivers runs a lot bigger than he is, right? So, his size is different. So we need somebody else to be that number 3 guy. We still don't know what Devin's going to look like yet. So I am looking forward to seeing more depth in that running back room. It never hurts. Jay Sharp, somebody said it down here. Thank you. It never hurts to have more depth in the running back room with guys who I think can contribute in that space. So, like Mike said, we'll wait and see. If the coaches feel like he's a fit, then let's bring him in and let him compete. But I will actually, I don't do a ton of evals on prospects. So once I get if he signs, then I'll be exhaustive. Right, I'm going to go and I'm going to try to find every bit of tape I can find on him to see how he fits into the offense. But, hey, right now it's a good prospect. If he wants to come here and they want him to be here, let's bring him in and see what we do, because running back is a room that we need more depth at.
Yeah, I get this question a lot on Twitter in my DMs. People are like, what do you think about this guy and this guy, these prospects? And I don't mean to sound dismissive, but I'm like, until he signs with Auburn, I think very little. Right. Because these kids are making different decisions. So I don't shout out to all the people who put in the work to let us know about every single recruit that's out there. For me, I can tell you, I honestly don't find a lot of value in that, because these kids are making decisions based on a lot of information that we can't know. And until they sign with Auburn, my interest in them, unless they're strong, if it's some guy who we know with at least like 90% certainty he's coming to Auburn, great. If he's 50-50, he's not really on my radar.
Yeah.
When it comes to recruiting.
And listen, that's not our business, right? We're not prospect evaluators. And, it's good to talk about. Again, we like to have the conversation because we do have needs here and we want to talk about the people who could potentially come. But if you're looking for a talent eval for a kid that's a transfer from some other school, that ain't really that's not my thing.
It's a lot of energy to invest just for them to go someplace else.
Right. Agreed.
Right. And then we spent all this time talking about some kid who ended up not even coming to Auburn. What was the running back? Henderson, I think his last name was.
Yeah, Henderson with the Bama.
Right. Yeah. And it was just kind of like people were, I saw a lot of investment in this kid. Like, we should get him. We should fight Bama for him. I was like, listen, he don't even look like he's even an Auburn lean. So while he's supremely talented, and there are people out there who are evaluating him and trying to say whether he, may or may not come to Auburn, I'm not putting a whole lot of energy into that, because again, he went to, it was a no-brainer where he was going to go. Right. So again, I understand that there are people out there who are providing that. I mean, that is for your most diehard of football fans, right? Like, your casual fan, they don't want to know about players unless that player is at least an 80% Auburn lean.
Right.
Right. And I kind of feel the same way. It's just a lot of emotional investment into something that is not likely to happen most of the time.
Yeah. Right.
right? You know, I mean,
but again, so there are some people who do it really well, right?
Yeah,
and so like,
facts.
you know, and I have no interest in competing with them for that content because there's
don't
no
ever
way
do
I
that.
can keep up. I'm like, listen,
I mean,
do
you don't know what an 18 to 20-year-old is thinking from day to day. Like Mike, but you can have all the facts and then have to start over the next day because a completely different set of circumstances can switch a kid's decision either way.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of effort to keep up with, but yeah, I those are great points, and this is why people get mad at recruits for picking other schools because you've been investing in their decision making for months, and then when they choose something that's best for them, but it happens not to benefit your school, you're ready to rip the kid.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
so,
the better thing to talk about is what is your staff going to do with the kids that they get. Right. You know, and
that's why I say once he signs, then I'm all over.
We're all in it. Yeah, we're all into
no
it.
Doubt,
right? Yeah,
no doubt.
But I personally will never get the prediction model of this guy is, you know, like I don't know how my life is better by knowing some kid is going to sign with Auburn a week before he signs with Auburn, right? Like I personally don't get that, right? So you know, to each his own. And I know there are people who are supremely, but what value is there really in knowing that a guy's coming to Auburn before he comes to Auburn for the average fan? Not a lot in my book, right? Just after he signs, let's talk about what he is, though. Right. Or if he is better than a 90% lean, in which case we usually know that right up front. The guys who are solidly committed to your school, great. You know, I know why the coaches would be interested in that. Certainly. Right. You know, it's funny. George Miller said it best. I'm not interested in the comings and goings of a 19-year-old not signed. Facts. This is exactly how I feel. Waste of time. Move on, right? I'd rather analyze what he is after he signs. So, you know, the portal stuff is a little bit different though than regular recruiting because we have a lot of relevant tape some of the time on these guys. Some of the time on these guys, right? And somebody has already evaluated them, and then their choices are a lot more narrow. You know, and when I think about these high-profile things, transfers over the years, way back in the day, you know, we've talked about Russell Wilson. It was truly just two schools that it was down to, Auburn and Wisconsin. It looked like Wisconsin was going to get him because of their O-line, and then they ended up getting him, and that was it, right? And I was a little bit invested in that because I was just thinking,
really good that year too. But
Rose Bowl! I think they ended up in the Rose Bowl that year, right?
Yeah, really good that year.
And I thought to myself, you know, this was going to be the heir apparent to Cam. After the season we just had, I was like, man, could we catch lightning in a bottle with another transfer 2 years in a row? And when you watched his tape of him, I mean, he held records in the ACC for passing. You know, and he had 1 year of eligibility left, and so that to me is bigger news than an 18-year-old kid, right, who again may or may not sign with you, and even after he does with these new transfer rules, you know, depending on if they see the field immediately, they may not stay at your school. So you know, I think that the new transfer rules have changed the game, and we just need to not get too overly hyped about where kids choose to go to school. What you need to do is you need to focus on the staff that we're paying millions of dollars and how they develop the kids that they do end up getting. And then after they get those kids, whether those kids decide to stay because you have gotten them to buy into the system that you sold them. Now, I asked Josh Pate this question, and I won't answer it. I won't tell you what he said, but essentially I just asked him, like, hey, man, if you're Bryan Harsin, what are you selling to kids at this point? Why Auburn? That's the more interesting thing is what are you selling to kids to come to Auburn? To make these portal guys interested. Like, hey, I'm going to go there. Drayshawn Miller, who is potentially a draft pick, left his school where he's killing it and somehow said, this is the best place for me to go. Continue my journey to the NFL. I'm really interested in how we sold that to him.
Yeah.
right? Are they promising him playing time? This is a big jump for him. He already knew he was a starter at West Virginia.
Right.
Right. So what did they say to this guy to get him, if he is really this supremely talented, to come invest his time at Auburn? Find me information on that. Right. Get me that. That's the real scoop.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody's evaluation of these 18, 19-year-olds is different. And half of them know what the hell they're talking about, and they're wrong most of the time.
Right.
Unless once you get past the surefire, you know this kid is going somewhere, everybody's just guesswork, right?
Yeah, Unless you're Leonard Fournette.
Pounding your chest afterwards to be like, I told you, it's like, you guessed. Okay, calm down.
Yeah, great.
or you just commit to a school like that doesn't really know what to do with you.
James Coleman, I love this one. James Coleman says, I quit worrying about recruiting after Reuben Foster. Facts. He had an Auburn tattoo.
Right.
Yeah.
He had an Auburn tattoo and went to Bama. I hope he had a hell of a tattoo artist to cover that shit up. But like, I'm just like, what? Right. So I don't know. I think we're, again, what we're bringing, something that I'm really interested in, I'm going to plug right now, that Ike is going to be bringing you guys the position group evaluation and the breakdown of the talent that we do have, is something that I think that's going to be useful for a lot of fans. It's going to help us understand who we have and, you know, where they fit and how the coaches are going to use them. You know, and to the extent that you guys continue to support us, we're going to be able to bring you more of that content, which I think will be a very interesting conversation to have moving forward.
Yeah. Preston Lindsay said George Pickens ruined it for him. I mean, that's another one where it's like there are so many people who are so, like, to the point where there were fans rejoicing when George Pickens got hurt, saying that's what he gets for, you know, turning his back on Auburn. It's like, it can't be that serious, guys. Like, you cannot be this invested in the decision of a kid to go play football somewhere that you're rejoicing that he's injured because he didn't come to your school. Like, that's just, it's too much. That's too much.
I told Devin, because there was some guy over on the Auburn board, he was like, this is karma or something like this. I was like, you're embarrassing yourself. Sit down. Delete this. Right. Yeah. And then he wanted to die. That was the hill he chose to die on. And so, like, you know, the mob jumped on him after I said something. But I'm just like, you cannot be this invested in where a kid chooses to go to school. Right. That you're essentially rejoicing in his injury.
Right.
Because he flipped his commitment from Auburn. He was a receiver. As a matter of fact, I would argue to say that he probably made the right decision for him based on how we have been developing receivers prior. So, you know, of all the position groups, quarterback and receiver, I'm not faulting any guy for not choosing Auburn. I'm sorry. Fight me if you want to. Right. You know, I hope that Harsin can change that. Right. Certainly. But, you know, kid makes a decision, and these portal guys are coming in, and they're making very important decisions as well, too.
Yeah.
Right.
That portal thing is tough, too, man. Like, you look at Kamal Haddon, like, he came and he's like, this ain't it, and left already. Like, he just transferred here before spring and is gone after spring. Like, that's tough. Like, it's a rough decision trying to figure out what's the right fit for you. It's a rough for a guy in high school deciding, is this the school that I want to go play at, right? To get me to the next level.
Right.
And with those guys in the transfer, you have less time to make the most of your college opportunity. So it's even more serious for those kids as opposed to a kid coming out of high school. I could at least tough through it if I'm coming out of high school, but when you've been in college for a while and you've already left, like, I have a much smaller window. This has to work out. Right. And if I don't see it working out, I'm cutting the deuces, man.
Yeah.
I'm
that's one thing we talked about in our Chop It Up. If for those of you who are not insiders, you know, if you're an insider, you can actually go back and rewatch it if you miss it. If you join afterwards, it's a playlist. You can go rewatch all the previous Chop Ups. We talked about that with Chris Todd. Chris Todd was a transfer quarterback. When he came in, it's like, what is that mentality of a guy that's coming into a place, transferring, hoping to play, right? Like, what is the thing that makes you want to make the decision to leave, right? Like, why did you decide to jump to a different school, and why did you choose the school that you chose, right? And he talked about his whole recruitment process of where he decided he initially wanted to go, which was Texas Tech, and then kind of the whole process of him going to, what do you say? He went to a JUCO, and then he came back up and played at Auburn, right? So like that entire process, that's a lot, for a kid to have to deal with, and it's not. We make it out to be, because we only see the end result, a very linear thought process of, oh, well, he couldn't cut it at Auburn, so he had to leave. It's way bigger than that. It's a whole lot more involved. So,
yeah, you guys have to watch this segment with Josh Pate. Man, listen, he broke all what we're talking about down beautifully. Yeah, it was articulate. It was eloquent. I mean, it was, I form a lot of my opinions from the experts that we talked to. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Caesar, but like I can't stress enough. Like, he explained this beautifully. Ed Darby said earlier, the key is, what are we telling offensive recruits?
Right.
Josh Pate explained what we're telling them. Right. In year one. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, but before we get out of here, your thoughts, guys, on, because Donovan Kaufman is still out here. We pretty much talked about our investment in these recruits, but I just want to get your guys' opinion about the safety position in its current state, now that Chris Thompson, who wasn't a starter,
right,
but was expected to contribute. I mean, I always go back to the Georgia game, when Smoke got kicked out of ejected for targeting, and what that did for the safety position when we had one of our leaders go down or get put out of the game. We know what Chris Thompson would have been able to do in terms of being able to give those guys some rest. But what do we think about this position, and how critical is it that we get a Donovan Kaufman to come in to Auburn now that we kind of are a little thin at that position now?
Yeah, I think it's important. As an experienced guy coming in is going to be important for us. Like you said, with Chris Thompson, who looked the part, like he looked like he was going to be a stud. I liked what I saw from his film out there in A-Day. He was hard hitting, very downhill. But I wish him the best on whatever he decides to go next. But I definitely think that he's going to be missed. But we still have some other guys, I do think that Domio can play safety if he's going to be back and healthy. Domio. Yeah. And I think that, Kaufman coming in is going to be able to put somebody in that position immediately that can play. So, I think we'll be okay. We definitely have some depth there that we can still work out. And that's the one place, again, defensive back is one of those places where I think we'll be all right. Just because we have a lot of talent that can move around to different places or different positions on the field in the back end. So, I think we'll be okay. But if we can get him in there, I say bring him in, because, again, he's already worked under the guy who's going to be running the defense.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think, how quickly do you want to win when it comes to, how important is it? Right. I mean, you're building if you're building a culture, and that culture is going to take time to produce the type of athletes that you're looking for. These portal guys help fill immediate needs, right? So what kind of year are you trying to have in 2021, right? Are you trying to be a championship level defense in 2021? Because if you are, then he's extremely important. Other than that, I think, we need a system that molds and produces the type of athletes that we're looking for. If you can get a portal guy like him and you can plug him in immediately and he can help you immediately, great. Other than that, right, I'm willing to accept whatever the result of this is, as long as it looks like we're developing. A guy like that, this guy who has some experience comes in, and the learning curve for him is shorter. Right. And he's more instinctive, and hopefully a guy like this can pick up your system quickly in a couple of weeks and go out there and just play football fast. That helps you immediately. Eventually, right, we need to have a system that produces those type of athletes so that you're not so dependent on these portal guys to produce immediate success.
Yeah, agreed.
That's what I'm hoping, right? So, to answer the question, yes, he's important based on what, again, I think they want to win now. Derek Mason wants to have a championship level defense now.
Right.
I don't think he wants to wait on that, right? And Bryan Harsin wants to have a championship level offense eventually. But he's being realistic about what it's going to take to get there and how quickly they can get there. So if you can win now, I stress, like, listen, we could catch lightning in a bottle this year and still have a ton of development to do. Right? Like, I mean, listen, they can go out there and win 10 games this year and look great on offense, and both can get drafted. And if you still don't have a system in place where you've had time to develop players behind these guys who are going to leave eventually next year, you've got a problem. So you may see a giant step back the following year. What we're looking for is consistent results.
Yeah.
Right. And portal guys may give you short-term boosts here and there, which is great. Hopefully we're in a place where when those guys come in, they're so supremely talented, right? That even above and beyond the guys that you've developed, you're like, we have to play this guy now.
Right.
And it's just, and then you just have a wealth of talent.
Right.
So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. Like I said, I think it's important for them this year, particularly because the way we may struggle offensively, we're going to need the defense to keep these games close,
right?
Keep us in games, right? So everybody on defense is important, and rotating guys and keeping guys fresh because they may see the field a lot.
Yeah,
right. Which is why the defensive line is, for me, on as far as the defensive groupings, is the one that I feel like we've got to make sure we've got guys ready to play, because that's where you're going to get a lot of your issues of needing to rotate players. Is you got to have your guys up front stifling whatever they've got going on, because if you're letting people run all over you like we did last year, and the defensive line's getting pushed around for 3.5 quarters, that fourth quarter is going to look embarrassing.
Right. Yeah, right. It really is. So, one of the tenets of our defense before was, I mean, we were pretty famous for rotating 10 guys on defensive line.
Right.
All the time. I mean, they were fresh come the fourth quarter because they were rotating, and we're going to wear you down. Your offensive line, you're not rotating 10 guys on your offensive line.
Right. Same 5 unless somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, right. So by the time the fourth quarter gets, with us rotating that many guys, you're getting your ass beat in the fourth quarter by our defensive line. And I hope on defense, that's where we're at, right? Is that if we can just have depth where we can rotate and spell guys, even in light of some offensive struggles that are inevitable, those guys will have the gas in the tank to finish out the game strong. And, hopefully by the end of the season too, when you lose some guys to attrition, due to injury, we're still strong at the end of the season. Next man up. Guys are going to get hurt. They're going to go pro. They're going to transfer out. You just need a system that has next man up type mentality here. And every guy's going to want to feel like he's the next man up. So you should keep more guys in the system.
Right.
I mean, is the way I'm seeing it. This should be the place that players want to come play and finish their career.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
So, if the portal guys can come in and find that success, hopefully that signals to recruits that we're on the right track. And, and maybe we're not falling victim to all this portal madness that will be coming in the future.
Right. And it's to echo your point. Like I've been impressed over a few years how a school like an Alabama or a Clemson can lose guys, and it seems like the middle of the next year they're almost as strong as they were previously, because you just had guys step into roles that were vacated by guys who either graduated or went to the league. Right. You want to get to that point in Auburn where you're developing not only the guys who are starting, but the ones right behind them, and fostering competition to where when it comes their time, they're ready. And you can rely on guys that you recruited out of high school to be the guys that you need to make a run at a championship.
Facts. Big time facts.
That's when you justify the millions of dollars that these universities are paying you to do just that.
Yep.
Yep. Hold up your end of the bargain for these athletes, man. Give them a shot, right? They're all trying to live their dream. I had some dummy arguing with me about and I don't have no problem saying this. He was a complete moron arguing to me about how few guys go to the NFL, and I forgot the point that he was trying to make. I just remember it was extremely stupid, and essentially letting the coaches off the hook for not doing their best to develop talent. And I'm just like, hey, listen, man, at the end of the day, these kids all have a dream to play at the next level if they can. And your job as a coach is only to give them an opportunity that if they work hard enough, your system gives them an opportunity to live that dream. That's it. Our coach is making $5 million a year. More power to them. That's going to be a dream that most people will never experience.
Right.
So pay that shit forward, man, and help some of these kids live their dream too. That's all I'm saying. Right. And again, I mean, the point I wish I could remember the argument. I had to block out the stupidity of his argument. Right. But it was so dumb. And I'm just like, I don't understand why you're sitting here arguing for why millionaires should get a pass on doing their job.
Right.
It made absolutely no sense at all. Right. So, that's where I feel like, again, Harsin's saying the right things. I like that he's a hard nosed guy. He seems like a very down to earth kind of coach as well, too. In the conversations we've had with people about him, again, not a sunshine pumper, not a player's coach in that sense where they all love him and it's all sunshine and daisies. But, hey, listen, if you come and you work hard, you'll love me because I'm going to help you get where you need to go. You'll love me because I'm going to get the most out of you, right? You'll love me because I'm going to set you up well for the next level. I take that over some coach who coddles me just so I can fail at achieving my dreams. Just me though, but whatever.
Guys, you got anything else? Anything? We B Will wasn't on with us today. So we wanted to talk about one of his favorite coaches in the SEC West, who made some comments last week about Nick Saban, but we'll save that for when he gets on. I really wished he could have jumped on, but he couldn't last minute.
Right.
Definitely wanted to hear B Will's thoughts, and you probably still hear it this upcoming week. But Mike G, please let people know what we got coming up the rest of this week. Man.
Again, can't stress enough. Josh Pate. 247 Sports. Please go check out this interview tomorrow. We're going to release it tomorrow morning for everybody else. If you're an insider, you've probably already seen it. It was extremely, extremely informative. It was a great, tremendous conversation that we had with Josh about the Auburn football program, about Bryan Harsin, about recruiting, about offensive identity. So please go check this out. Really shout out to Josh Pate for donating some of his time to have this conversation with us. We're working hard to bring you guys more content like this. Become an insider. That's how you can support us in our mission to bring you more content. $5.99 a month will get you there. We appreciate our supporter level contributors as well, too. Every single dollar that you guys give goes back into producing more and better content for you guys. So you can also do this by donating to our GoFundMe. You can find this link in the About section of our YouTube channel. We are raising money in conjunction with the Lee County Humane Society now. So again, more information will be coming, but 50 cents of every dollar that you give to this GoFundMe campaign will be donated to help save a rescue animal and help somebody adopt an animal that it could possibly change their life. So as our platform grows, so does our social responsibility. We want to make sure that we're putting some good back into the world. And this is the way that we've chosen to done it. So shout out to the Lee County Humane Society for allowing us to partner with them to help raise money for a good cause.
Definitely. And guys, listen, we appreciate you watching along with us on this holiday. We can't keep the mothers waiting on us, so we're going to get out of here. But before you do, guys, please, if you haven't already, share this video. Share it on social media, whether it be Facebook or Twitter. If you're on Twitter, please add us at The War Rapport. You can hashtag us for this episode, TWR Tailgate, and hashtag Get Your Weight Up, please. by all means, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can find us at The War Rapport on IG and Twitter. We are TW Rapport on TikTok. That's it for now, but you'll definitely see more of us throughout the week. But until then, War Eagle.
War Eagle.